Welcome to writingalong.com. Today's episode is all about structuring scenes in fiction, which as a whole isn't something you got to spend a whole lot of time on. Scenes in general are comprehended by the audience, by the reader in a very straightforward way. It's just some kind of separation, some visual degree. I'm talking like a break, an extra paragraph, those little spaces between the paragraphs, or a new chapter or something. A scene like that can really be an interesting visual cue, and you have to connect scenes on your own. You have to create those bridges between those places. You can have a scene that spans different chapters, different parts of the book, different all of that stuff, different parts of whatever you're writing. The thing is, you have to create certain bridges because they're broken easily. The mind always wants to kind of separate things and be like, okay, this happened, this happened, this happened. It's mind-boggling to just perceive this continual flow that never ends, which is why we see in days. We cut them up. We cut them up in the morning and the night. Daytime, dark, noon, midnight. That whole separation. If you just perceive time as this endless force just rolling towards you, wouldn't you kind of lose your mind after a while? Same thing with stories. So the brain can't help it. Of course, the day isn't actually diced up. There's not this person who just this is this and that, and this like actually messing with time as a concept. No, you create that on your own. It's a fiction, but you hold on to it and it makes it real. And again, fiction, we're talking about storytelling. And that's what you're doing there too. Of course, events that happen don't really have any separation. A life, it really is just this movement. Yeah, you sleep, but even then your brain is still active, your body's still active. You're still alive while you're sleeping. But you cut up your life in that kind of way. It's once you realize that that's a universal pattern, a universal habit that humans do, and the audience does. You're a human too, I'm guessing, right? You're able to do that too, and you're writing consciously. And if you want to have a long, complex scene, you got to realize that eventually it's going to get cut up, and you want to be the one in control. You want to master when you want it to end, when you want it to break, and you'll create those breaks. But again, just by something simple, new chapter. Break up the paragraph a little bit, some kind of thing like that. Hell, a little block line. Filmographers, videographers have this a lot easier. You're doing TV adaptations on writing. It's so much simpler. You can just black out the screen or something. But at the end of every scene, you want to make it known that there's some kind of clear distinction. If it's going to continue, leave it off on some kind of unresolved note. You can resolve tiny conflicts. I'm talking something really small, but always leave some small thing or larger thing, but it's easier to just do something small. Don't resolve it. They were going to look somewhere and nothing happened. You didn't get to see what it was, what was there. And it kind of just already leaves in your mind like, all right, we're leaving off here. We're going to pick up on that later. Depending on the intensity of what you're writing and how developed as a writer you are, how comfortable and confident you are with words. It may leave the reader actually on the edge of their seat, like just anticipating what's coming next. I want to know. They may even want to just be tempted to skip over and dig through the pages and find out or look up online what happens next. And that's something that happens. It could, but as a whole, you're gonna have plenty of scenes. Not all of them are just gonna be this jaw-dropping experience, and you don't always need that either, which is also pretty nice. It's pretty good. You don't need 1 million. Brilliant, intriguing, never heard before ideas. Sometimes you just need 10. Sometimes you just need 1 for the whole story, and all the other small ones are the ones that will act as bridges and create these pathways. It's like entanglement within your own book. Writing is very universal. We're following a lot of universal principles, which is why most of the teaching of writing isn't just pouring knowledge into your head. It's actually allowing you to see these things on your own so that you won't always have to turn to a book or a guide. Good, writing teaching isn't that. It's not the collection and summation of knowledge. You're not a good writer when you have all this stuff memorized. You're a good writer when you know how to do it on your own, when you know how to utilize the world around you to work in your favor when it comes to conveying and communicating your ideas through words on paper, on the page. And again, the way to do that, you want to leave something open at the end of a scene. And the second you leave something open and move on to something else, you start something new and you left that open, it doesn't mean that part's connected. you'll know how to connect it because that narrative is going to continue. That sequence of events is going to continue later on. It's going to close, it's going to resolve that unresolved part. And the brain is very powerful. Okay, you can think cynically that people aren't smart. People are smart, the really capable of comprehending certain things. And you can talk about people's decisions making if you really want to contest that. Like, David, what are you saying? People are smart? Are you kidding me? Have you seen some of the people in this world? No, I mean, like, their brains can do a lot. It really can, more than a rock can, right? Okay, so something like that, that little connection will be made automatically, autonomously. You don't got to worry about saying this is the continuation of that scene. Like, no, they'll know because it was the events that they were waiting for. Their brain was waiting, like, okay, well, what was going to happen next? And then you say what happens next, and you continue that scene. You continue that scene, and you structure it wherever the hell you want. It could be at the end of the story. It could be at the middle, like 5 chapters down from there. It doesn't really matter when. But those bridges that you open, these little, you can call it, yeah, it is kind of like a portal that you open, and it'll be closed, and the path will be met somewhere at some place. And that's how you'll structure. You want to be the one to structure, or else your reader is going to structure on their own. If there's no structure, they'll create one. You can look at that as, and if we're talking universal principles, right, where there's not any order, where there's complete chaos, people tend to have a tendency to create some kind of structure, depending on how you visualize how humans were interacting here on Earth before all this stuff, right? General common ideas, just this kind of sense of chaos. You're figuring things out, like nothing makes sense. You're looking, why did that volcano blow up? Why did lightning strike from that cloud? Why is fire hot? And why does it burn me? And why does it burn my flesh when I touch it? And why does water put it out? You create narratives, you create structures of, oh, this is why. And over time, those ideas improve and become more solidified and more, harder to push over, harder to disprove it. Your current conceptions of how everything works right now, we may think we got it all figured out, right? But give it another few hundred years, a lot of things are going to be flipped on their head, and there's this new understanding. But that's just how it works. And as a writer, you become this master of reality, the reality that you are creating, not just something that was presented before you and you got to figure it out. You actually are the one who's putting things in, and you're the one who's saying this is that. You become like I don't know, some people may not take kindly to my use of this word, but I mean it in the best way. But you become the god of this world that you're creating, and you can contextualize yourself in that way. You're not gonna get everything right. You don't need to. You don't need to know everything. You're creating an environment. You're creating a space, a chamber in a sense, and things, concepts, ideas, narratives, plots are echoing all inside there, and you're containing it in whatever the end, beginning, and end is. You have a first chapter, you have a last chapter, and all of that is within there, this sphere that you've created. And because of that, you own it, and you better take responsibility for it, or again, people are going to find their own ways of bringing about some kind of structure. And it may not look nice, it may not look the best, it may not be pretty, it may be actually pretty bad. It won't end well, because people are going to start seeing it like, wow, this sucks. This, man, I have so much work. I gotta make all this stuff up myself. I gotta, well, why am I reading this? It's such a struggle. I gotta do this in my own life already. Make your book, make your writing an easy experience. Make it a place to be. You ever visit somewhere and you know what's so beautiful and amazing about that? Sometimes things are set up for you. You walk into that hotel room, everything's there for you. You walk into this friends or family member's home who's invited you over, and everything is already set for you. The dining food is set for you. There's a place to sleep. There's a place to be, a place to get comfortable and be yourself. That's what people want to do. They want to be themselves in your own book. I know it's crazy, right? Because you're telling a story. What do you mean? I'm not setting up a bed. I'm not setting up a home. I'm not setting up a house. But people want to find a place where they can be, and not just be anything, but be them, be themselves, looking through the window, hearing this story that you've created for them. They want to exist within it. It might be a horrific place, especially if it's like a horror novel or something, or, they don't want to be there. They don't want to be physically in danger. They want to experience that excitement from the outside, which is, as a writer, you can create that. You can create these extremes that they have to exist within, and those are the structures of your writing. Structures. We're using this. I'm using the home example, right? Someone invites you into their home. Their home has a structure. Your story has a structure. Your book, it all is something that you're creating. And you say, hey, come on in. Come check this out. And if they like it, they're going to stick around. Guess what? They're going to stick around. They're going to tell people about it. They're going to, be really intrigued. They're going to feel good. That's what you want for your audience. That's what you want for your reader. That's how you have an audience. That's how you have readers. You invite them. Create and invite. You build it, and guess what? They show up. Yeah, they're not going to, but marketing is a whole other thing, right? Write the book, and readers will show up at your front door begging to read it. It's a whole other thing, but I'm talking about writing. You can find all kinds of stuff about that out there. There's an information gap in writing on the internet right now, and I'd love to share as much as I can to help you. Check out this guide I have on my website, writingalong.com, completely free. It's what I offer on my website. You can send it to your inbox, and again, I really appreciate you stopping by this episode, and structure those scenes, or else, again, your reader will, and they're not going to like it, all right? They're not going to want to put in the legwork. As a writer, you're the one who's doing that. Create those structures. Create beginnings. Create ends. Leave things on notes that don't end, and then end them somewhere else. And you will have to divide them up yourself. And you'll find it's actually not a task that bothers you. Isn't it fun to build something? Isn't it fun to make something when you're in total control of it? Why do you think these hyper-realistic video games are so popular with people, right? Their minds it's like a human like fantasy land where you can just control and make everything the way you want it to be. Well, with writing, that's what it is. It's real, and it has a real effect on the world. It's not a game. It's something you can actually do. And as a writer, that's what I want you to do. Thanks for stopping by today, and I'll see you on the next episode.